I ran my agency for 12 years, from my coffee table to an eventual exit. And in that time, I learnt a few things about how to step back from my business, eventually working about 2 to 3 days a week at any one point in time. And so I want to explain today how I went through that process, like the journey that it took to get there. And I'm in a pool right now because it's like 33 and a half, 34 degrees. It's very hot. And I figured if I was going to talk through it properly, it's better that I'm not sort of sweating on camera. So that explains why I'm here today. Let's start from the foundations. I'm going to assume that you have an established agency, that you have a team behind you, and that you have some form of capability to be able to step back. But I'm going to assume that you have had feelings of like, maybe you're ready to step back. Maybe you are wondering why you're still working 50-hour weeks and you just want to make a change. I'm also going to assume that it's not an issue of capability, but more mindset. Because I find that with myself and my clients now, a lot of it is mindset based. It's not having or not feeling like they have the permission to be able to take time off, and feeling like they're not allowed to, which is crazy because I had the same feelings. So I think it's very common. And so let's go back right the way to the start. I'm going to explain how I went from 5 days to 4 days a week. I'm going to annoy some people here because I'm going to say it as it is, which is 5 to 4 days a week is easy. It's a choice that you make. As soon as you have a team in place that can support things in your absence, you can move to a 4-day week. To give some credibility to this, I haven't worked a Friday in over 5 years. As soon as I took that first proper Friday off, I never went back. And I never would go back. So 5 to 4 days is really a case of needing people to support the business, but not to make any critical decisions. You don't need anyone with authority to be able to do something. And nothing outside of an emergency can't be deferred to the following week, to a period in time where you will be present in the office to be able to handle it. And so that's what I mean by it being easy, is you are effectively giving up 20% of your 5-day week by giving up 1 day. None of us operate at 100% efficiency. We're just not 100% productive. And the reality is that you're probably nowhere near that either. And to give up 20% really means that you are cutting out the inefficiency and you're forcing yourself to be more productive during the 4 days that you do give yourself. If you've heard of something called Parkinson's law, it's the general premise is that the task that you're doing will expand to fill the time available. And so that's why we feel really productive the day before we go on holiday, the day before we take a break, because we rush to get things done. And the reason why we're so productive is because we've only got 24, 48 hours to actually get everything ticked off. I think it's really healthy to move from a 5-day to a 4-day week, because on the day off that you have, and again, for me, it was a Friday, I found that I was always well rested for the rest of the week. So I operated at a higher level for the 4 days that I was in, rather than having the 5 days, my time spread across the 5 days. And the feeling that I had before I went to 4 days a week is I felt that I wasn't fulfilled. So every time I went into the office, I had things to do, but I didn't have a full working day to do. And when I got home, my now wife would ask, how was your day? And I kind of got into this pattern of just saying like, oh, it was okay. I didn't really need to be there. Bit of a waste of time. And it wasn't that it was a waste of time. I was being productive. I just didn't need the whole day to get what I needed to done. And so the end of the day felt like a slog. It felt like I was just hanging around. And in reality, I was just getting in the way of my team, who encouraged me taking that day off. It was really, as I said at the start of the video, it was really a case of me giving myself permission to just take the time off. I'm going to add a little tip here, which is not to do what I did. At first, I set my Fridays as a working from home type day, and it didn't really work because I was still in a working mindset, and my team would also feel like they could just send me anything because I'm technically working from home. So, it was fair game. I had to change it to being on holiday and actually taking that time off. And therefore, our policy with holidays was to only contact someone in the event of an emergency. And so that changed everything for me because that meant that I was no longer hassled when I took the time off. And start small, start with just like one day. You don't need to say that I'm going to take every Friday off. You can just take one a month off or just one off. And just see what breaks, see if anything kind of comes up that's so scary that would lead you to changing or reversing that decision. And I don't think there will be. So that was how I moved to a 4-day week from 5. Moving from 4 days to 3 days is a totally different challenge because now you are losing 40% of your week. So you need to be really well systemized at this point in terms of having offloaded most of the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and that should leave you with the things that you should be focused on. So like the founder worthy tasks that you should be doing as your role as a leader in your business. You also need more structure within your team because you need people to be able to make decisions for you to take two days off comfortably every week. That comes with having a chain of command within your team. So when something has to escalate, it can escalate to a manager. It can escalate to someone who can handle it, but can also has the authority to be able to handle it and to be able to make those decisions in your absence. And that requires trust on your part. You need to trust that person that they're going to do their best to get the problem solved and allow them to do that without getting in their way, without stepping in and just taking over. Where to start with this? For me, it was having a head of every department, but really also having what you class as a number 2, someone I really trusted, who I knew could get things done. And then they also had the support of others in the team around them to be able to get the support they might need in my absence. And so when looking at your team, I always operate in kind of 3 main layers, which is having leaders, managers, and contributors. And to go from 4 days to 3 days, you really need someone in the leadership level, because leadership focuses on outcomes, makes decisions, and has authority. Whereas managers ensure standards and follow process. It's not to say that they don't have any decision-making authority or anything like that. It's just the fact that their role isn't based on those things. It's making sure that you're managing people and process. So how would I go about it if I was doing it again? I would make sure that you have a clear structure of leaders, managers, and contributors in your organization chart. I would practice giving your leaders proper authority and the ability to make decisions on behalf of the business. I would go about this by asking good questions and turning things back on people. Naturally, they're going to sometimes ask you for like what to do. And this is a really good time to learn some basic coaching where you can effectively say, I don't know, what would you do? Or how would you handle it? Or what options do we have? And which one would you pick and why? And by reversing the decision making on your team, you're going to train them to be able to handle those situations when they come up in real life, unsupported. The move from 3 days to 2 days is much of the same, but this involves a lot more leadership structure and a lot more trust and access. So things like banking access, shared banking access, being transparent with finances, making it possible for others to make financial decisions in your absence. It's the same, but more trust is required and more structure is required, because you don't just want that falling on one person. You need multiple people in your team to be able to do that. Perhaps someone's responsible for finance, whereas another person might be responsible for managing the team. For me, this also meant taking things like hiring and disciplinaries off my hands. It was a clear move, because I was less involved in the business, that I wasn't the right person to be deciding who do we need to get into the business and who shouldn't be there because they're underperforming, because I simply wasn't in the office often enough to have the best view. Even though I had a view of it and I had a finger on the pulse, I wasn't living it day to day. I would say that was a key thing for me, is removing myself from recruitment, which I hated anyway, by the way. So it was very easy for me to willingly give that away, but learning to work in terms of budgets. So I just had to set a budget and then allow someone to use that budget in the best way they felt possible. Stepping away from your business and reading things by numbers, reading reports, and effectively like having a snapshot rather than day-to-day view is a really strong way to build up your leadership skills, because now the things that you can't see, you have to work out a system to be able to get visibility on them. So to conclude, the things that I would recommend, and like if I had to kind of give a really quick digest of what I would do, I think moving from a 5-day week to a 4-day week is a choice. I think you should make that choice as quickly as possible, because it trains you to be more productive. It trains you to start trusting your team more. Nobody's going to give you the permission you are seeking if you're worried that you shouldn't be in the office. And it builds you up and builds confidence to be able to make the move from 4 days to 3 days, which is really a leadership issue, or like a leadership challenge even, where you are challenging yourself and your team to have more structure in place. And what you find is you start to prioritize the things that are really important. You start to spend your time on making bigger decisions. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe to me for more videos if you want some more agency insights. So I'll wish you a great rest of the week, and catch up with you next week on the next video. Cheers.